Okay, today on Blues Rock Review, we are welcoming no stranger to Niagara or anywhere else in Canada for that matter. Member of the legendary Downchild Blues Band, the legendary Chuck Jackson. How you doing, Chuck?
I'm doing just fine. Having a wonderful day.
Well, that's good. Now, we're going to talk because the Southside Shuffle is about to have its 26th edition. So maybe you could fill us in on what that means to people who are going this year.
Well, it's actually 27.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's counting the American tariff. No, I'm only kidding. It is 27 years old. Amazingly, when I first started the festival, I thought it would last maybe 2 years. I never thought it would last 27 years, but we started back in 1999. And we're it's going to be a great festival. It's one of our biggest lineups ever, I think, and proudly all Canadian.
Right. And
Uh, Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say you've got over 25 bands.
No, probably about 50 to 60, counting
What?
counting the three stages, the street shuffle, the bars, and throughout town.
Right. I always forget about that street part. You mentioned it started with you. How did you come up with that idea?
Well, I grew up in Port Credit, and I like to call it Mississauga Delta. And we my grandparents used to have a corn roast every September, and at the bottom of Mississauga Road. And my band at the time, we were like 15 years old. We would play. And then all the neighbors would come out. So in honor of them, I wanted to start the festival in September, and got together with a friend of mine, Dave Boyce, and one of the bar owners, Rockin' Docks, a bar that I've been playing at every Sunday for the last 28 years. And we, through the idea, went to the Port Credit BIA, and I suggested a blues festival. At first, they were a little hesitant. They were thinking, well, blues music, that's going to attract a whole bunch of motorcycle gangs and things like that. And so I said, well, let's throw jazz in there and we'll see how that works. And they agreed. And we started the festival with in a soccer field. And at that time, the only two bands we had playing in the park were Downchild and Fathead. And we had about 7 or 8 bands throughout the town in the bars and on the street and stuff. And it grew from there.
And the BIA have been supportive of you guys all along.
The BIA Mississauga, Tim Hortons has been with us for quite a while now too. Got a lot of great sponsors, but and then a lot of we pretty much exist now on grants and very important to us. And but we're still going strong. They said we've got some great acts, and it's September 5th, 6th, and 7th, always the weekend after Labor Day. Let kids get back in school, and it's time for the grown-ups to have some fun.
Right. And you've got some good bands this year, quite a few big names. You got Tom Wilson, you've got uh, Big Sugar, and just a couple days ago you announced a special headliner.
Yeah, Friday, the Sheepdogs will be coming to play, and we're pretty excited about that. They're actually going to be going on a world tour with Brian Adams, opening up for him and starting in October. And so you'll get a chance to see them play at the Shuffle for a much lower price it would be than to see them open up for Brian Adams or a lot of the other festivals around. It's only a $30 ticket on Friday night. And also that night we have Steve Strongman and Ira Walker.
Right. Yeah, I was wondering what famous Canadian you were going to sneak in there who you didn't already have.
That's right. We've had quite a few over the years.
Well, that's another good question. With so many legends that you guys have met and worked with, are there any that stand out or any that left you starstruck?
Well, opening up for B.B. King in 1999 was probably a highlight at Massey Hall. And afterwards, the show, we got to go and sit with BB for about 45 minutes and talk. And he was a true gentleman, someone I always admired my whole life. And, it was really quite funny because it was 1999. He been diagnosed with diabetes and stuff. And I said to him, are you slowing down? And he said, yeah, Chuck, I'm slowing down a little bit. I only did, 220 gigs this year. And it was, right before the millennium. So on New Year's, he was doing 3 gigs on New Year's uh,
Wow.
Day. He was playing 2 colleges and then going back and playing at his club, BB King's in Memphis, right?
And with all these bands, and I think the number I see in the website is over 5,000 bands and over 20,000 musicians over the years at the festival. Um, do you consider the blues group a good family? I know there are some discord here and there, but overall, do you find it a family?
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, you know, they because of, especially in Canada, because you know, blues is a small portion of the music that's sold in Canada and listened to in Canada. We all know each other. We've all grown up with each other. Over the years with Downchild, we played with so many great Canadian blues bands. And we've also played with, opened up for Buddy Guy. We've opened up, the band's opened up for Joe Cocker. Opened up, years and years ago. We've opened up for the Beach Boys. We've opened up for so many different styles bands, but Canadian blues, and especially at our festival, we've over the 27 years, everybody has been pretty much approachable. There's been a few, I won't mention names, that were hard to work with, but
I was going to ask you to name names. You're not gonna, eh?
no, I couldn't do that. But
If you do, I will.
oh yeah, we probably have some of the same names, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
We've
but
only had one that actually was a real pain, but that's pretty good record.
yeah, that's a really good. I think it might be the same guy. I'm not sure, but I'm not.
I'll bet you it is.
But like Buddy Guy, he was probably the best show we ever had back in 2015. He was just great. He said he's been playing 90 minutes to the second, and he did. You
Yeah,
know, and we've had Bobby Rush come out. It rained all weekend. Bobby Rush is walking in the rain out in the audience, playing, performing for people. We've had, I funny story. I was in Mississippi last fall, and I was having breakfast, and I went up to pay my bill, and I turned around, and Charlie Musselwhite was standing behind me,
wow.
and I said, "Hey, Charlie, I'm a major fan, you're one of my favorite harp players of all time." I said, "You played my festival?" He said, "Yeah, probably." I'm sure he played over thousands and thousands of festivals over the years, so I didn't expect him to remember. But yeah, it was great, and we got a picture together. One great guys, yeah. So many great performers over the years. The people that I idolized as a kid that I got to have at the festival, Johnny Winter and people like Mavis Staples and Savoy Brown, Fabulous Thunderbirds, um, you know, uh, just so many great performers that I always wanted to have. And that park where we have it at, I was a kid. I hung on that park as a hippie and got thrown out of it quite a few times. And you know,
You, you, I bet you've been thrown out of better places.
oh, much, much, much nicer places for sure. Um, and we've been lucky enough to play all through Canada with Downchild, like every nook and cranny, places that we got to see that most people have never witnessed, and had great times playing in this country and playing in Europe and you know playing at Buddy Guys, Legends, and festivals throughout the United States. It's been a wonderful career. I can't believe I've been doing it now for 55 years, and I'm still enjoying it for sure. And now our new band, the Hogtown All Stars, will be headlining, closing the festival. For the first time. Downchild ended the festival every year for 26 years. But we have 5 members of Downchild in the band. We've got this year it's the Hogtown All Stars Extra Large. We've added an extra horn, so we got the Hogtown horns with Allison Young playing with Pat Carey and Howard Moore. We've got Keisha Wint and Cheryl Escom coming in to do background vocals. So it's going to be a great show to close it. And we've got Miss Emily coming, David Rotundo, David Gogo. Um, We've got Tom Wilson, of course, and Johnny Max's show, In Spite of Ourselves, The Evening of John Prine, and Pappy John's. So that's just on the main stage. And we have a world stage that's going to be kind of neat. We've got all different styles of music. We've got uh, local Zydeco will be playing some Zydeco music. We've got Swamperella, Club Django, Jay Douglas doing some reggae. We've got Duente, and we've got some young, J.E. Lopez, who was runner-up on the Maple Blues talent search, and of course we have Izzy Abalagi, who won. So we're also showcasing our youth, and we've always done that. We had over the years we've had Jimmy Boskill, Steve Strongman, who started out in our junior jam, and we know what they've come to place. Steve Marner, all these great young talents that have become mainstays in the Canadian blues scene.
Now, you just mentioned Mariner, and you and he have something in common, I think, that uh, is a little bit unique, and that is that you've got a multi-approach to this business. You mentioned Downchild, of course, and the All-Stars, and Chuck Jackson and his All-Stars. And Mariner's doing the same thing, and he's working in two or three bands. Do you think that's the way of the future for guys trying to make a living in this business?
There's no doubt about it. I don't think you can, well, I mean, unless you're lucky enough, well, especially playing the blues. I mean, but you're not going to make millions, and it's basically goes back to the old days of even the days of Louis Armstrong and the bands and Louis Jordan and all those bands in the 40s and 50s that they played every night, you know, and sometimes they played three, four times a day, you know.
Right,
At the
right,
Apollo Theater, the guys would play at noon, and then they'd go and get dressed up, play uptown for the folks uptown, and then they come back and play a midnight show, and then they'd play you know uh, rent parties until 6 in the morning, or somebody would have a party in their house so they could pay the rent at the end of the month.
right.
And then the whistle would blow in Chicago and or New York, and they'd go back and work the next morning. And that's the way it is. Most blues musicians, as you see, are working just about you know every night of the week if they can, and in multiple bands. I do duos, I do trios. I have house band gigs, I do guest spots, and then have I play with the Last Waltz with you know uh,
Lance Anderson.
Lance Anderson, thank you. And I do a Christmas show with Johnny Max, and yeah, and it's fun. It breaks up the monotony of doing the same show every night. Gives you good challenges to try different styles of music because most of us blues guys and stuff have grown up on other styles of music. I mean, I grew up. My family was deeply into country music. Hank Williams was one of the first things I ever heard. As a kid, my grandfather played the spoons. We always had the kitchen parties, which everybody sat around and played. And I'd get on my grandfather's knee and sing Hank Williams when I was about 6 years old. Got my first harmonica from one of the guys that would come up and play. And we all grew up listening to the Beatles when we were little, and I guess lots of people thought they might become the next Beatles, but I saw Buddy Guy when I was 16 and decided that I wanted to play blues, and that was it for me.
That was one of my questions, how you got going. The other thing I want to know is when did you discover that you could sing?
I was funny thing was I was raised by my grandparents. My grandmother was quite religious. I went to Catholic school and sang in the choir and stuff like that. And you know, as I said, there was like because I was raised by my grandparents, my aunts were quite a bit older than me, and they were like, I'd come home from school in grade, when I was like 5 and 6 years old, and watch the Mickey Mouse Club, and then right after American Bandstand would be on, and I'd see like Fats Domino and Chuck Berry and and they'd have Elvis plastered on the wall, and stuff. And so I was really influenced then. And uh, I guess a lot of people, when they'd be sitting at the kitchen table and their parents would say, you're supposed to be seen and not heard. My thing was Chucky, no, there's no singing at the table, you know. And so I was always singing. And I started out as a bass player, um, but I was having a hard time singing and playing bass at the same time. So guitar player changed over to bass, and I started singing and started playing harp.
right? That's kind of a similarity to BB. He didn't like to sing and play at the same time.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Now, the other thing I saw on your website, you mentioned Big Joe Turner, Otis Redding, and Junior Wells as influences, and I think that's probably the most uh, accurate list of influences I've seen on any artist because everyone names influences, but those three, I mean, you got Big Joe Turner's voice, booming voice like yours, you got Junior on the amazing harp, and you got Otis doing all different genres, which you enjoy doing when you're out there.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started playing with my guys, we started our first band in grade five, and my friend Angus was they travel and they go to his parents would go to England and stuff, and they'd come back, and introduced brought he bought records over there. He brought back the first Cream album, which was like 6 months before anybody in Canada had heard it. John Mayall's Blues Breakers. But we also were big influences by Otis Redding and Wilson Pickett. We loved that music. We loved Ray Charles. We played a lot of that stuff. We used to have the first band I had, one of the first bands we were called Dancer, and we did the history of rhythm and blues. And we started with I used to do James Brown. We do we had a choreographer, and I do the splits and do all that stuff with the cape and please, please, please. And so we were really multi influenced. We used, I was big influence. Charlie McCoy was one of my favorite harmonica players. One of the great country players of all time, and studio harmonica players. And so we throw in country stuff, and stuff too. Like we're quite eclectic.
Okay, now before we go any further, you got to tell me, is there any video of you doing the
Do it.
splits and doing it and dancing? Tell me
Um,
there is.
no, there's no video, but I'll tell you a funny story. Back in the old days, there was an A&W in Port Credit, and Canada Day back then was called Dominion Day,
Right.
right? And so we were playing on stage out there. And funny thing is that my sound guy for that was Gil Moore from Triumph. He was doing the sound for us. And we did the whole show. We had, the tuxes and stuff, and I did the James Brown with the cape, and we had a limousine. We pulled up in a limousine, got out and played. All the kids were there, like yelling and screaming, like we were the Beatles or something. And when I did the James Brown, they walked me down. I'd get back up, go back on stage, do the splits, go back down. Finally, lead me and had a girl dressed up as a limo driver open the door, and I'd get inside the limo. And my grandmother had never seen me play before. And she's seeing me and she's thinking, "Oh my God, I'm sick," right? Like, so she comes and she's knocking on the window of the limo and going, "Are you all right, Chucky? Are you all right?" And I'm going, "Get away! It's part of the show. It's part of the show. Come on, you're ruining it. Get away!" And that was. But we used to go and play Newfoundland all the time, and we had a lot of TV stuff that we did because back in the '70s, like and early late '60s, there was a lot of like Toronto bands were stars going to Newfoundland. They didn't get big acts like they didn't, they didn't get Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. They didn't get, stuff like that. And so we'd be on TV shows and stuff, and they'd film stuff. I used to dress up as a polar bear with a top hat and get out and dance. And we wrote a song called Bear Where There's a Bear Out There, and he danced like Fred Astaire, and I'd go in the audience and dance and stuff. And we were like the second most popular band in the East Coast. We were making in 1969 or something like that. We were making like 2,800 bucks a week.
Wow.
It all went well. We were still eating craft dinner. You know,
Yeah.
our roadie and sound guy was making more money than we were. And we everything we made, we were spending on choreographers and I used to change clothes like about 10 times in a show, you know. It was
Oh
pretty
boy.
funny. I used to do what was it? Secret Agent Double O Soul, which
Oh,
and dressed up as a secret agent guy, and I come up with a fake machine gun, and we were doing Point Claire, and I'd stand, some Holiday Inn it was, and then I'd be in the kitchen that's the only place I could change, and I had my gun sticking out, waiting to come on, and the bouncer came up and grabbed the gun. He thought it was a real gun, pulled me out, threw me to the floor. I do it, hey man, come on, you know.
well, at least it wasn't your grandmother throwing you to the floor
No,
that
I,
time.
I was just going to say, yeah, for sure. Well, she threw me to the floor a couple of times, and yeah.
You probably deserved it.
But just lots of fun over the years. I've always considered myself as, yeah, I'm not a great harmonica player. I'm not the best singer in the world, but I consider myself as a good entertainer, and I think I write some pretty good songs and over the years. So, I contribute a lot of original stuff to the Downchild over the years, and for Hogtown All Stars, our Hogtown All Star album, Hog Wild. I wrote 8 of the 11 songs, so and we're going to be putting out another one soon, I hope. And pretty tough these days when you can't. Most of the cars don't even have CD players in them.
Right.
Hard to move them.
Yeah, I know it's tough. But I think, you know, you're just saying you're not that great at that stuff. I think the mammoth list of awards that you've won over the years would argue with you. You've
Yeah.
you've got in every field you've got accolades and awards and nominations. So I think you're doing okay.
You know what, and I'm just a person that really, really loves the people. Like I mean, I really respect my fans. I go out, I talk to them. They know me. I joke with them. I don't consider like the time on stage is the only time you're performing.
Right.
Like when you walk off stage, it's just important to get to go and talk to people and greet them and my fans and friends have been completely devoted to me for years. I mean, as I say, I've been playing at Rockin' Docks every Sunday for 28 years, and I've got people that have been coming for 28 years. And if they don't come anymore, unfortunately, something's happened to them.
Right. No, I think that comes across in your shows for sure. You're always personable and engaging with the audience, which I think is important. I think a lot of artists make the mistake of not engaging, especially in small venues where they easily could.
Yeah. When I was in the Cameo Blues Band and stuff like that, I joined after and before Downchild, and I was then like shocked that like after every set, the guys would just run upstairs and hide.
Yeah.
And I'd go out in the audience, and at that time I was single, and I met a lot of girls that way. It was pretty good, but um, I just that was strange to me. You know,
Yeah, you mentioned Cameo, and certainly that gives you another notch in your resume before Downchild. But I was looking at their lineup and your lineup, and boy, there's certainly, you guys have crossed paths with a lot of the greats between those bands.
oh, you're not kidding. I mean, going into joining Cameo was a turnaround for me. It was. Led to me getting into Downchild and stuff like that because those guys would come. We played, 6 nights a week for 2.5 years at the Izzy, and you know, we had everybody come by, like Sting, because don't forget the Edge was right across the street almost, and so we get Sting come in. Sting would come in and listen to us play. You know, we ended up playing the Police Picnic with Cameo. One time we were playing and Muddy Waters and James Cotton were playing at the Ontario Place. And we were doing the last song. I was actually we were playing Rocket 88 for our last song to close the night. You know, in those days you'd close the bar at 1 o'clock, and had my eyes closed, just blowing the harp, and I opened my eyes, and James Cotton's standing right in front of me at the Izzy, and I just took my harps and my hand, I went here, what, and gave it to him, and the owner said, okay, told all the people in the crowd it was packed. You know, it wasn't a very big room. And he said, I'm going to lock the doors. If you want to leave now, you can leave. But if you want to stay, we're going to party. And James Cotton and most of Muddy's band were there. And we played until 4 o'clock in the morning, you know. And
Yeah,
that's the kind of stuff that would happen there. You know, Downchild, after being on the road, would come in. That's how I really got to know Donnie and Jane Vasey and met Pat Carey for the first time, you know, and stuff like that. And we jam, and it was just a great place, and it made us because we were you know, it was sponsored by Q 107. We were mentioned all the time, and I remember Q had a contest. We only had one single out. We did a single at Grand Avenue in Hamilton, and you know, it was never played on the radio. And we were runner-up, number two well-known band in Toronto at that time. I think Toronto, the band Toronto, was voted number one, and we were voted number two. And we, you know, and we were a blues band, and all these other big bands were, you know, it was quite amazing. You'd go up against one band, and then you know they'd vote, and that band would get knocked out, you know, and we were just moved. We just thought it was so funny.
well, here's a question for you. Would you have done if you weren't a musician?
Oh my gosh.
Never thought about it?
I'd probably be a street person. I don't know. Well, you know what? My brothers are comedians, and they've done very, very well. My brother Mike Bullard and had his own show. And see, my other brother Pat is one really successful comedy writer in L.A. He wrote for Reba McEntire. He wrote for Roseanne. He wrote for Tom Arnold. You got Last Man Standing with Tom Allen. So I think I might have tried to maybe get into a little bit of comedy. I enjoy making people laugh. Guess that would be the only other thing.
Well, when you were talking about the James Brown cape and the polar bear, I thought maybe you're going to say actor.
Yeah, well, you know, I think I would have liked to. I don't know if I would have been capable enough, but I really love musical theater too. You know, like my wife and I, we love going to the theater, and maybe might have tried to.
Oh, I think you'd be natural at that.
You
You're
know,
so it's easy for you, or it seems to be. You make it look easy with the audience participation and your interaction. I think it'd be right up your alley.
yeah. But I have no regrets. I'm, you know, I look in the mirror and I think, oh my God, 55 years. You know, I'm not rich, but my children I've done very well. Our children have done well. We've got our home, a beautiful home, and what more do you want? You know, and I get to play every day, and I get to hang with friends and play with great musicians, and have traveled around the world. So
Yeah,
what could be better than that? You know?
not too much, and that's probably the key right there from the beginning, understanding that. We mentioned early on how great most of these people are, and the ones who are a little bit difficult, and then maybe they miss that point. Maybe they miss, the joy of it.
Yeah, like you know, my grandparents didn't make much money. My grandfather drove a truck. He made $60 a week. He bought my first bass. He, you know, put it on a layaway plan. It took probably a year to pay off the $60. I think my bass was $80 or something. And but our family, we always had everybody was welcome in our family. Everybody, if you want, on Sunday, if you're coming by, come on in for dinner, come on in for a beer, come on, And I think that I grew up like that, and I feel that way, even entertaining. Like I want to welcome everybody. Like, people come in and say hi, and I think it's been good for me, and it's the main reason too. I started the Southside Shuffle. I just knew that Port Credit, and at that time we had played so many festivals, around the world with Downchild and stuff, and there wasn't much happening in Toronto at that time. There
Right.
wasn't, there were other festivals like, we were one of the first, like, Orangeville popped up after that, and Kitchener and stuff like that, and it took a lot of talking and persuading, but it turned out to be something that we generate a lot of money in Mississauga now, and the city's behind us 100%, so something I believed in, and I think that's another reason why my career shot off because of that.
Well, I was going to mention that certainly the South Side was inspiration for Tim Sinnott, who brought the Canal Bank Shuffle to Thorold, and definitely after seeing yours for a couple of years, he thought it could be done in Thorold. And at that time, it could. There was enough venues available. It's tougher now, but the fact that you mentioned the number of bands and musicians you've hired, but don't forget the other ones you've inspired. I mean, you can tack on the shuffle in Thorold as a direct result of what you guys were doing.
Yeah, and I'm very proud of that. And I had a great relationship with Tim, and just a wonderful man. And not just the musicians, but the folks like yourself, and the people that radio and podcasts, and the people that are volunteer, basically donating their time to do blues festivals, are volunteers, and other festivals. These are people that, just like myself, that just, I love the blues, and I want to, show it off to everybody else, and our city can do that. And we've seen that result in Kitchener and Orangeville, and you know the Lighthouse Blues Festival. So many events now that and that basically in the summertime keeps us all working.
Right.
Because as you say, a lot of the bars aren't happening anymore. You know.
Yeah, I think we're in a little bit of a tough time, but hopefully things will start to grow back. Well, they have grown back since COVID. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're very lucky in the sense that in the Golden Horseshoe. And it's always been like that. That there's a lot of venues. Like, gosh, try being in Vancouver somewhere when you have to drive over mountains and stuff like that to get to other gigs. And you know, we've got places like Thorold and St. Catharines, and Burlington's got a great music scene, and Port Credit, and it's it seems these smaller places like Toronto's just not a happening place to go see music in bars anymore.
right, right. No, and that's another extension of what you guys were doing. I mean, in Niagara, there's three blues shows a week all winter. A couple of them take a summer break, but Donnelly's is doing it two or three times a week uh, all year. And
Yeah,
and again, that sprang up from the Canal Bank, which sprang up from you.
yeah, and like and bar owners like Joe. I mean, there's very few great guys like that. The Moonshine, and Oakville was like that too, where it was just people that, like I like the fact that Joe, like he treats you like $1 million. Uh, uh, you know, basically supports the music like crazy. Down at the Moonshine, no TVs or anything in the room. There are people there to hear the music, and the other thing too that's really happened now is since COVID, like backyard parties, and like this, we're Hogtown's going up to Etwell to play, at a cottage. We're playing in the fall in Acton. I believe it's a place called the Juke Joint. That's a barn that they've turned into a Mississippi juke joint. And some of these backyard parties pay better than the bars do.
Right.
You know, I'm playing a party tonight in Burlington, and just me and Tyler. But everybody brings some food. They throw in some money, and it's great. You know.
Yeah. And lucky to see those kinds of shows.
Yeah.
Now, just quickly, your Cup of Joe solo CD. Any thoughts of doing something like that again?
I love doing that album. It was one of the highlights. Like Um, I was just really the job everybody did, the players that we had. I was really disappointed that you know uh, the Maple Blues Awards and stuff like that. That nobody on that record got recognized.
Hmm.
Gene Hardy, Jesse O'Brien, so many great players on it, and it was up to that date. It was I was most proud doing that record than anything I've ever done.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know as well as anybody, better than anybody, that awards aren't always what they
no,
should be.
no, and exactly. It's like the whole story, like Juno and
Right.
$11 will get you a coffee at Starbucks.
Right.
But
Now, we know you've been having some health problems and your fans want to know how you doing.
I'm doing well. I'm doing great. You know, I had 2 bouts of cancer. I've kicked those, and I've got this. I have to go to Toronto General. I went there yesterday, and I just get some blood work done, and I've got to go see my specialist. But things are good. I like an idiot. I fell down my stairs in January toward the quad muscle in my knee. That kind of set me back a bit, but um, you know what? I persevere, and the music is the best medicine. And my wife is like a miracle worker. She is my Florence Nightingale, I'll tell you that. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here right now. And like all the years, like even times for gigs, driving me to gigs and stuff when I couldn't drive. And but everything's on the up go. And as I said, I'm very happy to be able to play music. And also want to mention too how proud I am of Donnie receiving the Order of Canada.
Right.
What a great honor for a man that I think is should be known as the king of the blues in Canada. He was the guy that started it all. Wasn't for him, a lot of us wouldn't be doing what we're doing.
Yeah, that's for sure.
You know, back in those days, Downchild and Whiskey Howl and Dutch Mason were basically and Matt Minglewood, I guess, were the main guys.
Right.
Donnie would play in Northern Ontario across Canada when there was no blues bands playing in those bars. There were a lot of rock and roll and country music, and he made it happen, and I have total respect for him, and I wish him well.
Yeah, it's great. And we're almost out of time here. We got less than a minute. So I'll just say that the last time I saw you, we saw you twice recently and you were still great. So keep going. And for everybody else out there, don't forget September 5th to 7th, Southside Shuffle. And just want to thank you, Chuck, for doing this. Really appreciate it. And we will see you soon.
Yeah, and just everybody can go to southsideshuffle.ca for all the information for the festival coming up.
Thanks so much, Chuck.
I've had a wonderful time. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Take care.
Yeah, bye bye.